Hi, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. I'm Abram Kielsmeyer-Jones, and this is using the research feature to launch your studies. Last week, we had a similar webinar. It was very similar in title, in fact. It was about using the info pane to launch your studies, and today we're looking at another feature that's a lot like the info pane in the sense that it very quickly gets you in and out of as many of your resources at a time as you select. There are some differences, of course, between the info pane and the research feature. The info pane is meant to function as a parallel pane to a Bible text, and the research feature allows you, it actually used to be called search all, so it's starting from a broader base if you want to think of it that way. We'll spend the next hour or maybe a little less talking about how to set up your search, how to customize the research feature, and then how to use it as a springboard for your studies. The handout that you see on my screen is available to you in the GoToWebinar control panel. There's a handout section, so you just want to click and make sure that arrow is pointing down, and then you'll see this handout. We'll also email it to you if you're here live. That means you registered, and you'll also get a follow-up email with this handout attached, as well as a recording of today's session. If you're watching this afterwards on the recording, you can email me, abramkj@accordancebible.com, for the handout. The questions box is how you can communicate with me. That's like a one-way typed chat. So any questions you have at any time, just type them in there. I'll see them. I'll either respond by typing a response to you, or I'll anonymously share your comment with the group if that makes sense, and answer it for everyone. Most of the questions fall into that category because if you were wondering something, somebody else probably is too. So ask away. I may not answer right away, but I will check and answer all the questions today. Let's dive in. Versions ago, as I mentioned, research was known as search all, and that's a good way to think about what it does, although it's more than that. The research feature allows you to access anything in your library, from a word search, a phrase search for that matter, or a verse search. So we're gonna talk through what you're actually searching in the research feature first. So that's the first page of the handout, and then from there, we talk about different ways to use it. Words and verses being the two biggest categories. But let's talk about the feature itself. And I've got pretty extensive notes here, including this graphic here that talks about, I think this is right from the help files, that talks about what's there. I'm gonna go to Accordance. I'm gonna go to File, and you can get here any number of ways. If I just go to New Workspace, I can open up a research tab from my from my toolbar up here. There's actually a little shortcut to it right here if I want to do that. We'll talk about that shortcut in a bit. But you could also go to a new tab here and find the research here. It may be somewhere else. I think they moved this up in the list in Accordance 14. I'm presenting on 13, but new tab and research, it looks like this. You can also go to File, New Tab, and get that same menu there for research. And like I said, you can access it in your toolbar. I'll talk about that. It makes a little more sense once we understand all the ins and outs of it. But if it's not already showing in your toolbar, go to Customize Toolbar, and you can drag a research search into your toolbar so that you can access it quickly. So however you open it, I've got a blank, well, everything is blank here. I've got a blank tab. It's titled Research. I could rename this tab if I wanted to. Let's say I've got two research tabs. So I'm going to go to plus again, Research tab. And let's say I'm doing research here on, I don't know, the Hebrew Bible. So I can name that, whatever you want to name it, that will help you remember. And maybe this, I just right-clicked, rename tab. Maybe this is Greek New Testament Research, or just GNT. I mean, you can really just do this how you want to. All right, so I've renamed those by default. Again, if I go to plus research, it will just be called research. And if you've got multiple ones open, it will go research 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so whatever your research tab is called, I'm just gonna do this one here. I've got a few things that I want to attend to here, and I've put this in the handout. The first thing you want to do is think about what you're searching for. Like, what is it that you're researching? A search term or search terms. So we can do phrases, we can do a word. I'm just going to do a word now. But it really boils down to these two, I think of them as 2.5 questions to answer. The first one being, what do I want to search? So maybe there's a word that will either be English, Greek, Hebrew, Syriac. You can do a verse search, you can do image search, Unicode. That's the search field. So that first thing is, what do I want to search? And that's this right here. So let's say I'm going to search the word, I don't know, how about we do mercy? So I'm going to type in mercy here. Now I just want to make sure my search field is at the right thing. That's an English word. If I were searching something like agape for love, I would toggle it to Greek and type that in. If I were searching a verse like John 3:16, I'd change that. So you can do words, you can do searches on verses, and you can do words in these different languages. Unicode basically encompasses everything else language-wise that's not these. So I'm going to just start simply with the word mercy. I just want to research mercy. So just make sure your search field here is set to English. That's the first decision. Once you've got the concept or the word or the verse in mind, make sure you get the search field. So what do I want to search? All right, got mercy, it's an English word, check. Now I want to decide, where do I want to search it? By default, your research will have this drop-down menu selected to all. And if I hover over it, I'll get a tooltip, which is not unique to Accordance. Anytime you hover over what is essentially an actionable icon in an app, it will tell you what that action will do. So if I were to click this, my cursor's just resting there. If I were to click this, it would do what the tooltip says, which is select the group of modules to search. And that's my second decision. Having selected the search field, that is what my search term, my search argument, my verse, whatever you want to call it, having selected the kind of search I'm doing, now I decide, where do I want to search it? And you've got a lot of options here. That's what this image is here. There's a lot of different ways you can search it. Now, if I were just doing research on mercy, kind of from a blank slate standpoint, I would just leave it as all, and I would search all. And when you hit enter, you'll see what comes up with all. It gives you, in fact, all of the categories that you could have selected as subcategories. They're all listed under all. So really, unless you want to kind of target your search and narrow it down and have less results showing, you could just do search all the time and then navigate the results here in this pane. And we'll talk through that in a moment. But suppose I want to do something different. Suppose I want to just look at mercy in my dictionaries. Maybe I look at this and I think, wow, that's great, and it's a little overwhelming. Let me just start with my dictionaries. So when I go to the search categories here, this drop-down menu, you'll notice there's 1 and 2 faint gray lines that divide these into 3 categories. And the first category here is the module type. Well, it's really the group type. So am I searching all of my modules? So all of my books, commentaries, Bibles, dictionaries that I've installed in Accordance? Am I searching all of my texts? Now that would be primary texts. It would be biblical text. Notice when we did search all and it gave me texts for mercy, I'm just going to move this over so we can see. Mostly what I've got here is Bibles, but I've also got apostolic fathers. I've got Josephus. Those are not Bibles, but they are primary texts. So any other primary text in Accordance will show up here. That's what searching texts does. Tools is really just about anything else. It's a secondary source, if you want to think of it that way. Tools in general comment on texts. Those are 2 broad categorizations you can think of in Accordance modules. And you can see that here. If I collapse these texts, these are all tools now. Dictionaries are tools, commentaries are tools, Greek lexicons are tools. That would be right here. So watch, if I do mercy with all, I get all these texts as we saw. If I did just all texts, it's the same list, but it's just the texts now. Only primary texts are showing. And maybe that's actually where you want to start. Maybe you want to see what secondary sources there are, but maybe what's most helpful is how is this word used in primary text. Going to all tools, you'll see it changes to basically everything except for texts. Now again, all is inclusive of all texts and all tools. So if you're comfortable, I mean, if this many results doesn't distract you or bother you, you may as well just do all the time, but you can subdivide it. Graphics tools is going to be a subset of tools, but it's going to be tools that are considered graphically enhanced. So like the Zondervan Illustrated Bible Backgrounds Commentary. You are more likely to find images in this search, although in this case, you may want to toggle your search field to image, which you can do, and search your graphic tools. And then you'll find things like the Mercy Seat. And then there's custom, where you can basically on the go, you can create your own group that you're searching, and then you can save it as a user group, which when you've got saved groups here in your library, and we could talk about that, that's a whole separate thing, but when you've made a group yourself, that's what this whole second section is. So if I go back to the handout, module types are here. So we have all texts, all tools, graphics tools. We just kind of glossed over that briefly, but then there's custom, which again, you can, and let me know if you have questions on that. I mean, you can just make this on the fly. You can add a text, you can add a tool, you can add a user tool, you can save it or not, you can update it. Once you've done that, then you can search those things. Maybe when you think about Mercy, you're calling to mind, oh yeah, I've got a good monograph, a good single volume book about that. I know that this author talks about that. I know that it's in this commentary. So if you have that in mind already, you can create that. But this second group of categories here would be any user groups you may have. So I've got some that I've made over the years. Maybe you have something like top 3 study Bibles, top 6 resources. Bonhoeffer doesn't get grouped by himself unless you do it. The authors, this Views series from Zondervan, I've got some of those in my library. So those are all your user groups. And then everything in this third category, this is again all under where do I want to search my search term. Everything in this third category is the more granular categories of tools. So this all is included already when you search all tools and when you search all. And when you search graphic tools, whichever of these tools are deemed to be graphic, like enhanced, would be included in that. But again, I can, and this is all, there's so many options, and this is the part of the webinar that I always feel like this is a lot of information to take in. It can be overwhelming. The point here is not to learn all of it. It's just to figure out what works the best for you and go with that. It may be that you're going to search all texts or all tools or all everything, and that's it. You may never use this. And in fact, this list here, as I said, is what you see when you search a word in all tools. Dictionaries, commentaries. Oh, I need to change this back to English, don't I? Or not if I want to look at images, but here. So I've got dictionaries, commentaries, Greek lexicons, Hebrew lexicons. Look at this, dictionaries, commentaries, Greek lexicons, Hebrew lexicons is the same thing. But again, maybe you want to subdivide some of these things. Maybe you want to look at whatever your history resources are, and then you've got a shorter thing here. And some of that's psychological, some of that's, how much information do you want to be viewing at a time? How efficient do you want to be? How broad is your search? But those are the search group options. So that first question is, what's my search term or verse or phrase? And then with that, I need to, with the term, I need to tell it what kind of term it is. Is this an English word? Is this something in an image? Now that, by the way, this is kind of a funny search. To search Mercy in an image, images don't have words. of course, with the advancing of AI, you could essentially word search an image in accordance. What that means, that's not in accordance. What we have in accordance is to search an image is to search the caption. So it won't actually, like if I say bird here, it's not going to actually, let me just see what I get here with all tools. Let's try that. I'm not going to get actual pictures of birds, but I am going to get any image that has the word bird in the caption, which more often than not has a picture of the thing that's in the caption. So just know that when you're searching image in accordance, you're searching the text of the caption specifically. So here, for example, I don't think of this as necessarily germane to a search on birds, but it's because you've got the word birds in this long caption. That's what image is. So in some ways that may be a little bit imperfect, but it's what we've got. And I think, again, more often than not, the images in image-rich tools in accordance have captions, and it tells you what they are. So I mean, more often than not, this works, but it's not searching the image per se, it's searching the caption. But all that's to say, these all these in the third group go into all tools. You can even do multiple searches if you want to, with a plus sign by holding down the shift key. So if I go to bird and hold down shift for dictionaries, I'm sorry, that is, yeah, it is shift. It added a plus there. I'm going to hold down shift for visual, and now it's got both of those. And now I'm going to hit enter, and it searched just dictionaries and visual. Accordance, again, is really flexible. It's multifaceted. The way I think about that personally is that's a really cool search. It's great that you can do that more often than not. If I'm searching more than one category of tools, I'm just going to search all tools. And then what I can do, and I'll pause here after this, the way that I do this, and again, it's just personal preference, but I might start with all of these disclosure triangles collapsed. This to me is a nice workspace. And what I would do then, if I've searched the word, well, let's go back to mercy. I'm going to go to English. I'm going to go to mercy. All right. I will just take a moment. I mean, if I'm really studying this word, I'm going to be spending some time on it. So I'll take a moment to close all these triangles and then work my way through them. And so when I'm ready to get to one, maybe I'll go here like this. And so I'll read through dictionaries. We'll talk about how to navigate these results in a moment, and then I'll close that again, then I'll open this one. I'll just look at one at a time. Again, that's just me. Maybe you've got a different way of doing it, but more often than not, I'm doing one of these top three. It's pretty rare for me that I do some of these targeted searches, but I definitely see the value in them, and I do occasionally. You might, one that I do use actually is journals. There is a kind of information in journals that is probably going to be more specific than even what I get in commentaries. I might have a 20-page article about the word mercy in the Psalms or in the first, book of the Psalms or something like that. So journals is a good one to try for that. But again, it's up to you. You have the information now. So the question is, or maybe you had the information already. The question is, what do I want to search? Where do I want to search it? You can spend as much or as little time on these questions as you want. And then the last thing is this, it's not a really huge decision, I don't think, but this last search is, do you want to do a flex search or an exact search? And that's this button here. And that's just going to give you, like, if I search for, here, let me go to all again. Let's do mercy again. So if I hover over this, my searches are exact searches right now. If I click it, now they're flex searches. And so I'm going to get things like mercies in my results, different permutations of the same word. And you can see that mercy, mercies, different inflections is how we want to think about it. So I don't know that I'll get merciful in this search, but I will get mercy and mercies. If I were searching a verb, I would get singular and plural forms of it. And if you're searching a concept, I would personally advise the flex search just so you get more. What I would do, and I'll just stop with this for questions in a moment. If I were searching mercy, I would think about mercy, mercies, merciful. I would even just do an asterisk here, which is going to say, well, this cuts both ways. It's going to give you MERC asterisk, so MERC, any word that begins with MERC. So I will get merciful. Notice before with mercy and a flex search, I did not get Genesis 19:16 because mercy and merciful are considered different words. Whereas mercy and mercies, if you look them up in the dictionary, they're both under mercy. It'll say mercy, somewhere it'll say comma IES plural. It's the same dictionary word, so the flex search will find it. Merciful is not the same dictionary word, so the flex search will not find it. So for that, you would do MERC asterisk. Now, you're gonna get things like merchant, which I don't want, but that's fine, I can just skip past that. I also got mercy seat here, and that's great. That did not come up in a flex search for mercy. So this asterisk is a good way to go. I do this also with something like faithfulness or faithful or faith. Maybe I'm just looking for something in that word family. Well, I just do faith asterisk. So I'll get faithful, faithful, faithfulness, and any other words that start F-A-I-T-H with something else following it. Here's the word faith itself. So that asterisk is a good way to go. But that's the flex search and the exact search, which I think are great to use, but it also, when I start to think about word differences or roots or things like that, more often than not, I'll use the asterisk search because it is a little bit more comprehensive, a little bit more powerful. You might do this for the word love, for example. If I do LOV asterisk, I'm going to get love, loving, loving kindness, lovable. If I even put an asterisk before this, I'll get beloved. So you might even just think about what word you're searching and use those asterisks to help you find it. All right, let me pause there. That was all my attempt to answer what is the research feature, but we were also looking at examples of how to use it. The search field, so what is it that I'm searching? What kind of a word is it? And then where do I want to search it? And then we talked about flex or exact, and also that asterisk. So we didn't do anything with navigating the results, which is really, I mean, we're not using the, more often than not, we're not using the research feature just to see a list of results and leave them there and move on. But I mean, yeah, that's helpful, and we start with that. But more often than not, I'm going to want to see, like here, I get this entry. I may want to open that up, read it through. So we'll talk about that next. But let me pause and see what questions or comments you've got. All right, let's talk about searching words and navigating results, and then we'll talk about searching verses and navigating results. I noted the search fields already, so let's talk about words. And again, we've kind of been doing this already, but let's go back to mercy. Let's actually look at the results. And I'm just going to take the word mercy and we'll do the flex search so we get mercies. All right. So I'm doing search all, and we know that this can get more granular, but let's just do everything all at once. Let's say I decide that I want to start working my way through some Bible verses on this. So I might just find whatever version I want to look at. Maybe I take the NET Bible, and maybe I just skim through these results, but then I see something. When he cried to us for mercy, we refused to listen, and I want to look at that in more detail. There's an open button here, and if I click that, it opens it up in a new tab, and in fact, it opens up this whole list of search results here. So I could continue to read the NET searches here, but quite helpfully, Accordance just basically gave me a subset of this search. It just searched mercy, flex, it respected that in the NET. So I can keep going through these results now. Maybe there's something else I want to look at next, but I've got my other results popped open here. Now, this is still verses listed individually, which is great, but at some point, I'm going to want to see the context. Like, for example, this would be an important part of studying the concept of mercy. The Lord said, I will show mercy to whom I will show mercy. Well, to whom did the Lord say that? And what's the context? Well, there's this context slider here, and you can scroll it to one verse for one verse of context, 2, 3, all the way up to A for all, which will retain your search, but give you the context. So Moses said, show me your glory, and the Lord said, so it looks like the Lord is talking to Moses, and I can scroll up further for context. I can even just save a little bit of time and look for a heading, although I'll probably want to read this through at some point. And then when I've read that context, all right, I've learned something about mercy, scroll this back to 0 and you're back to your hit results. And then when you're done with that, you can even close that, or you can keep this tab open. Maybe I keep this tab open and resize some things. And now I go to Dictionary of Jesus and the Gospels. Or maybe this bit on Exodus has captured my attention and I want to stay with it. So I'll go down here and say Dictionary of Old Testament Pentateuch. There's an entry, mercy, so I'm going to click that open. That sends me to ethics or grace. All right, I'll click there, and now I've got something there to work on. I can now read through this. All of these windows can be resized. You can, and let me know if you've got questions about this, but I could click this tab, hold it, drag it, and drop it wherever there's this drop shadow. I'm still holding my trackpad. I haven't let go. That's why you're seeing a drop shadow. Accordance is basically saying, do you want to put it here, here, here? Well, I want to put it here. And now I've got 2 tabs with the results that I want. Maybe I want to look at this in the Dictionary of Jesus and the Gospels, click open. Now I've got all these tabs. Maybe I want to see Waltke on the Psalms, click open. Now I've got this, the example I use, I think I mentioned this in the info pane. This is kind of like when you are reading a journal article and it hyperlinks to its bibliography sources, and you want to read all of those or find them, or an article with hyperlinks to previously written articles online, and you're just clicking, and you have 20 tabs open. I mean, that's kind of what you could think of this. These are all hyperlinked, and now I can get into my individual modules for more detailed research. I think of the research feature as overview, and then I can click things open to read them in more detail. You could read the whole article in this window if you wanted to. In fact, under the gear info pane, I've got it set to show full text. So right now, if I go to Dictionary of Jesus and the Gospels, that whole article is going to show here, including the hyperlinks. Those work too, so I can see those in the instant details down below. But I may as well just click it open in a new tab. And again, this comes down to personal preference. I like having it separate so that I can use this to navigate results. I don't actually do my reading in the research pane, but you can. Now, if you know you're not going to do your reading in the research pane, you can even change this gear icon to show excerpts. And what that will do is allow you, I'm scrolling in the main pane here, but my little highlight bar here will advance in the hit results. So that's just maybe a more efficient way to browse through, but it really doesn't matter. It's all personal preference. If you had it at show full text, all you'd need to do is just click through the different options here. So you can go to open in a new tab. You can read the whole thing here. Even if you have it as show excerpts, you still can open it, but you've also got a more button where you can read more, and then open if you want to see the whole thing. Accordance wants to make this as user-friendly as possible. I usually have it set to show full text so that if I want to read a whole article, I can. Maybe there's, a couple paragraphs and I'll just read that here and move on. But more often than not, especially for some of these larger concepts that have a lot more written about them, I'm going to want to see it in its own separate tab. But Accordance lets you decide how to do that. So that's searching words, that's navigating the results. And again, you could do the same thing with expanding, collapsing the triangles. Maybe you just searched mercy in your dictionaries. And so it's going to look like this. Now, notice, I do want to note that there are, it looks like there are duplicates listed here, like here, for example. Let's take Dictionary of Old Testament Historical Books. So here I've got it under an entry. So it's searched mercy as an entry. But if I scroll down, I'm going to see Dictionary of Old Testament Historical Books, English content, 26 hits. And that's just organizing my search results so that it's searching the same tools in different ways. Like if I open this up here, you'll see here, this searched English content, mercy, 26 hits. But if I searched by entry, and I can do this in individual tools, this is the same search field dropdown we have here, although it's more involved. I'm searching mercy anytime it occurs in an entry or a heading or a title, it may be called. So that's why when you see these results, depending on how you have it sorted, it's going to look like you've got duplicates, but it's really not. Well, it is. It's the same module multiple times, but it's sorted by entry, titles, English content, bibliography. That too can be changed at that same gear icon where you toggle between excerpts and full text. What I've got it sorted to now is sort by library entry. And I have that because more often than not, much more often than not, when I'm using the research search, if I want to look at a word as a concept, I'm more likely to go to the entry first. And so I want those put up at the front. I know, I mean, I can probably assume that the word mercy is going to occur many, many times in my dictionary of Jesus and the Gospels. But I'm going to want to start with any entries. And I've got 3 there. So if I go to here, let me just go to show excerpts. So here's 1. So that's a broad mercy, capital M. Here's another one, although that's a subdivision of this one, and then here's another one. Now, accordance, this is kind of elegant and easy to miss, but when I have my excerpts showing, in the place where I can go to more or open, it also shows me this second use of mercy in an entry in Dictionary of Jesus and the Gospels. It shows me where it is. It's under mercy, and so is this one. So really, I just need the one article, but it also shows me this is under New Testament usage. So it even gives me a little bit of navigation here, and then I can just click that open and look at it that way. Again, the theme, the refrain here is lots of ways to do very similar things. You get to decide how you want to do it. If you had this by sort alphabetically, let's just look at what that looks like. You can see even more clearly now. Yeah, in fact, this is the same Anchor Yale Bible Dictionary. There's only one, and there are 4 kinds of results. One is the entry, which, like I said, for me, more often than not, that's what I want. But maybe I'm really doing a deep dive on mercy, and I want to see the other times this dictionary mentions it. Here it is in the bibliography, and here it is in the captions. And this looks a lot cleaner. That's sorted alphabetically, but if you have it sort by entry, it fronts the entries, but it's not just any entry, it's sorted by your library entry. So in my library, so this is matching the order I've got in my library. So if I open up library, you can see these categories here, which ought to look familiar. They're these ones here: dictionaries, commentaries, Greek, Hebrew lexicons. Here they are. So this is following your library categorization. And then the results are following the order in your library. So I've got Dictionary of Jesus and the Gospels prioritized. I've got Anchor Yale prioritized. All the Women of the Bible is prioritized, or at least it's alphabetized, but it should come first. Why did that not come? Well, it's because there's not an entry on mercy in that. I can confirm that myself. And that's not surprising. This is a person dictionary. So the word mercy will probably be in there, I would guess. but not as an entry, so it didn't show. So if I have it at sort by library, prioritizing entry, I get my library order with all the entries at the top. Sort by library order is kind of a combination of what we saw with alphabetical and sort by library. It's still sorted by library. Notice all the women of the Bible did come up here, matching the order that they're listed in my library, whether that's alphabetical or prioritized or some combination, but it gave it to me here with English content. So if I want just my dictionary entries, I'm gonna have to scroll through a little bit here, which is fine. Maybe that's what you wanna do. But if I want those all up at the top, go to sort by library entry. It's really simple to change this. Let's say I see this dictionary, and I'm just making this up, a dictionary of early Judaism, and I think I always want to see that first. Just click that, hold it, drag it, drop it, put it right here where the drop shadow is. And now that's going to be my top dictionary. Let's see if Mercy is in there. Sure enough, it is. And now that shows first because I moved it to my library. So Accordance will respect your library order in the info pane. All right, so that's about searching words and navigating the results. And by the way, you know, I don't have a big screen. I know a lot of users have external monitors, or maybe you've got a bigger screen. This is a 13 some odd inch screen. So I do tend to be kind of thoughtful about screen real estate. And so this is not the most efficient window. I would probably close this library. I would probably move this over. In fact, you can even close the table. Well, it's called the table of contents, but it's really your search results. You can close that too and just scroll through results this way. I personally find that a little harder to follow because I don't know where I am, but you can if you want to. So that's an option. All right, let me pause there and see what questions or comments you've got. We'll talk next about searching verses. It really builds on what we've done already, but it's a little bit different. Okay, here's a comment on the context slider. I'll just put this in the chat for you. Someone says context slider number sets the number of verses before and after the found verse, but does not go beyond the start of a chapter or the end of a chapter unless you've got the A all selected in the context slider. Great, thank you for that clarification. Any questions or other comments about searching words and navigating the results? Or I didn't put this in the handout per se, but this gear icon is actually pretty important. Oh, and then of course there's the font size. I mean, that's self-explanatory. You can change that. But any questions about any of that, and then we'll move on. All right, let's talk about verses. So this is kind of a close cousin in some ways to the info pane that we looked at last time. So we're starting from a word, a concept, an idea in this case. Let's start from a verse. And just to review, if I've got a Bible text open, I can go to add parallel info pane. And from last week, we won't go through this now. I think the recording is posted. And if you can't find it, let me know. But the info pane gives us verse-specific context to that verse. So cross-references, study Bibles, commentaries, grammars, etc. It may be that if you're doing research on a verse, the info pane is all you need, and that's going to get you in and out of everything. So there might be a redundancy here. However, if I go to the research tab, I can search a verse. And remember, this is that first decision that we make once we open research, which is, what do I want to search? Well, I want to search a verse. So I still will need to answer, where do I want to search it? But let's just say, I'll just do John 3:16 for an example. So let's look at what happens when I hit enter. I need to change this to verse. I'm going to keep this at all for now, because we know that all is inclusive of all texts, all is inclusive of all tools, and all tools is already inclusive of all of these categories. So let's just do search John 3:16 and I'll hit enter. First, I see it in texts, not surprising. Here's John 3:16 in all of these versions all at once. I could have gotten to that from the Bible, default Bible with live click and verse lookup, but this is just another way to do it. All right, so I can navigate those results. But then I can see John 3:16 when it's listed in dictionaries. Interestingly, it's listed in the Dictionary of Early Judaism 2 times, here and here. Although, in fact, what I want to note here is that as I look at these different results, you're going to see John 3:16, but you're also going to see a range. I searched for John 3:16. My goal, let's say my goal is to do research on John 3:16. And so accordance is not misfiring here. It is searching John 3:16, but it is returning hits that have a range. This, for example, if the beloved disciple was the author of John 1 through 20, it would account, so on and so forth. All right, John 3:16 is included in that range. That hit is right. That hit is good. But maybe I do, maybe I don't want to wade through these ranges. I mean, so here's a passage that includes John 3:16. Yeah, that might be good. You know, it's not that hard to navigate through these. But if I know that I'm doing research specifically on this one verse, or maybe I've looked at the ranges, put an equal sign in front of that. And now I hit enter. And when it says equals John 3:16, it actually didn't change my Bible search, but it did change my tool search. Now I've only got John 3:16, where it's mentioned as a reference. So any range now that includes John 3:16 will not show. So I will not see results in here that are like John 1 through 20, or even John chapter 3. It's John 3:16 specifically. It even picked it up here in this list of individual verses. So equal sign verses, and then your decision of what do you want to search it in. And that first one, I mean, you can look at it in all of your texts, but you can also look at it in all of your tools and all these other categories. Everything we've talked about before still applies here. We're just doing a different kind of search here. We're doing a verse search. I'm going to shift now. Well, actually, I'll pause for questions again, but I want to shift now to doing this in context. It is, you know, totally up to where you're at in your study process or how you're thinking through things, whether you open up a research pane on its own and look for something, or whether you're in a text already and it's reading the text that gets you to want to research something. So you may not sit down, open up Accordance and say, all right, I'm gonna research so-and-so. You may sit down, open up Accordance and continue reading through whatever passage or book or whatever you're going through and find something you want to research. So we're gonna talk next about how to do research in context from an open text, not from this research panel, which, by the way, just as you take a moment to formulate any questions or comments, let me just use this opportunity now to go back to this little shortcut here in your toolbar. This has now combined those two, what I'm talking about is two decisions to make. What do you want to search? What's your search term, in other words? The English, Greek, Hebrew, Syriac versus images or Unicode. That's number one. And number two, where do you want to search it? It combines them all into one drop-down menu, but you need to check two things. Notice here, English, all tools are both checked. And now I can type in something like Mercy or whatever, and it will open up what I've been looking at before from here. I think once you get the hang of this, it's a little bit of an abbreviated process, but you're just checking the two things here. So I'm going to look up verses now, and I'm just going to see my commentaries on John 3:16. So you can do it from here, and this can save some time. And this is another good way to do it. I want to see all my commentaries on John 3:16, which your info pane can also do, but maybe you want to get at it this way. All right, we'll talk about in context in just a moment. Let me pause and see what questions. Yes, a request for a few words about Unicode. Let me put this question in the chat. Yeah, let me go to Unicode. Let me just see if an asterisk search is going to do anything here. No, it's not. I'm going to take this opportunity to show us to the help files, which have, actually you can go to help files up here, Accordance help. Unicode is kind of a standardized, well, here, this will explain it better. Unicode fonts use a standard system which has enough room to assign a specific position to each character in each language. So this is going to give you more in the weeds on Unicode, but as far as what you're actually searching, let me go to research and see what they've got there. Let's see the research tab. Yeah, here we go. I had this in, I think I had this in the handout at one point and then took it out. Yeah, and I don't use Unicode a whole lot. So it's basically going to be any Unicode language that we have in English. If any of you use Unicode searches and have a good sample search for me to try, I'd love to do that. I'm just trying to think. I mean, this gets into foreign languages that I tend not to know. Yeah, I might just have to leave it there at pointing you to this help file, if that's all right. And I'm happy, if you want to send me an email, the person who asked, I'm happy to follow up more afterwards with more on this. But I think this is going to get you into the territory of searching things, because you'll notice this is pretty limited. English, Greek, Hebrew, Syriac. Well, if I want to search Latin, actually would search in English because those are English characters. But if I want to search Korean, I need to go to Unicode or something like that. So that's, hopefully that's sufficient for now, but again, happy to follow up. Yeah, somebody says Japanese, Chinese, all double byte fonts. I'm not sure what that means, but yeah, I think the help files would be a good place to go to, and just type in Unicode and you'll see what's there. All right. But yeah, please feel free to send an email. I can get back to you more on that if that's not sufficient. Let's talk about searching in context, which again, maybe you're coming to the research panel this way, maybe you're not. So I'm going to be in a text now. I'm just going to go to John 3:16, being a well-known verse. All right, so I've got John 3:16, and here's the word, well, loved. And I want to do research on that. So I can open up a new research panel and type in the word love. I could do love with a flex search, as we talked about before. But I'm going to, sorry, hang on just a second. Let me just make an adjustment to my screen, if you'll pardon me. I'm still here. I'm going to, yeah, what I'm going to do is a flex search on love, but I'm going to do it from my, I'm going to do it from the text that I'm actually in. So here's the word loved. I'm going to right click, and now I get this pop-up menu where I can do a lot of things with it, but I want research. Research is what I want to do. Now this should look really familiar by now. I'm searching this word, and I've already done that first, what I'm calling that first decision of what do I want to search? Well, I want to search the word loved, or probably love, but I'm starting with this. I want to search for that. So Accordance knows I've got a word, it knows it's English, so I don't need to specify that. So I only get the second part of research, which is where do you want to search it? I'm just going to do all. And it typed in the word loved. It did a flex search, which is great because now I get love too, and I get lovest for that matter. I could decide if that's good enough. We're going to say it is for now. If it's not, you can go in and delete ED and put an asterisk in there. But now I've got what we've seen before, but it's in context right next to my text. It's in its own separate zone so that I can navigate this text and keep my results here. And now from here, I can decide what I want to pursue in my searches. Do I want to do a text search? Maybe I want to go down to the NET and look at that and open all the uses of loved. Now, it put it right next to my other NET because Accordance is kind of organizing my zones. This is a zone with Bible text, so it put it side by side. I could drag that over here into this zone if I wanted to. And then I could look at, here's Dictionary of Jesus and the Gospels. There's love. That's a relevant entry. I'm going to click open, and now that's in another new zone, which is just dictionaries. Again, you can move all this around however you want to. But what I've done is I've moved from a text. My concept that I've wanted to search has emerged from the text rather than, I mean, you could still just go here and type in love. I mean, that took all of a couple seconds. That did not find anything because I had it under verses. So go to English. So that's fine, but you can also go to right-click, research, and search whatever it is wherever you want to search it. So that's using the research feature in context. Let me know if you got questions about that. I'll spend the last little bit of time with creating a custom research group, and then also happy to leave some time for questions. But any questions about the contextual search? Let me just catch up on some of these. Okay, great, thank you. Here's a better technical answer somebody provides on Unicode. I put that in the chat. Unicode can handle all the languages in the universe. Someone says also searches biblical language using the Accordance font. Yeah, one more comment here. I'll just put these in the chat. Great. All right, let's talk about custom user groups. There are two ways you could decide to do this, and again, it really doesn't matter which way. But let me get a new research tab open, and it's found once you've already created them, they're here. But I'm going to. Well, there's one of two ways to do this. Why don't we do it from the library? Because we saw how you could create a custom user group from here. You can also do it from the library. Let's just do it from here. That might be easier. So I'm going to go to custom, and we'll just take a moment to do this. I glossed over this before because I wanted to make sure we covered everything else. But let's say, and I'm just going to randomly select some tools that I use a lot. So I use the NET Bible a fair amount. So I'm going to go to that, and it's there. I'm going to add a tool. I'm going to add Dictionary of Paul and his letters. I'm going to add, I don't know, maybe I'm going to add a commentary on Galatians, and maybe I've got a user tool that I like. Let's find a good one. Here's the Pope Francis address to U.S. Congress. All right, so I mean, these don't necessarily cohere, but take your time to do this. I mean, let me just add some stuff at random. I mean, you can see here, this can grow and grow and grow. You can add as much as you want, and once you've done that, you can click on Update, and now it will search those things. So if I click Love, it will search the things that I selected. If you want to actually convert that to a user group, which you might even do that before you run your search, you can click on this, and this will, let's just call this sample June 25. Hit enter, and it will name it as such, and now it's going to show up right here under sample June 25. So whatever it is, and you can see here how some of these are, like Bonhoeffer for me is actually a useful user group because those are otherwise organized with other tools in the same category. But if I want just Bonhoeffer, I want to put those in one category. Same thing with someone like N.T. Wright, or there's a lot of Brueggemann works, Walter Brueggemann in Accordance. Whatever you've made will show up here. This one was top 6 resources. And so maybe there are 6 resources you're always using. They'll show up here. You can decide if you want to take some time to do that. Where I would recommend that is if you are doing extended research on a particular topic and find yourself going to the same resources a lot. Maybe you're doing a sermon series or a small group Bible study where you're using the same resources a lot. You can always do search all. I mean, if there's anything to not forget about today, it's that searching all will do everything you need it to. However, as we've seen, that gives you a lot of results. And if you know that you're just going to be looking it up in these 5 resources anyway, you may as well create a custom group. So again, you can do this from your library too. There's a process that way, but I would just start here with custom, and it will allow you to add text tools, user tools. And then if you see something that maybe I don't need that after all, you can edit it here, update it. And this is already converted to a user group, so it should update there accordingly, but that will show here in this second broad category. All right, that's all I've got. That's everything I could think of to tell you that I know about the research feature. I'm sure I'll remember more things later, and if you have questions later, I'd love to receive them. My email address is here, abramkj@accordancebible.com. We've got another minute now. If you've got other questions or comments, I would just encourage you to try some of these different methods and see what works the best for you. My experience with Accordance is out of 5 ways to do something, I will learn all 5 and I'll use 1 or 2 and I'll forget the other 3 or 4, and that's fine because I can do exactly what I need to do. So I would just find something that works well with your workflow and your preferences. We recorded today. Actually, let me stop the recording, but then I'll stay on for another moment. So if you are watching on the recording, just a reminder, abramkj@accordancebible.com. If you email me, I'll be happy to send you the handout.